welcome back to my channel. I'm here with episode 3 of my Happy Mail series, and today I'm going to show you how I make envelopes to fill with ephemera and stickers, washi tape, like all that kind of fun stuff. So I do actually have a tool, if you will, to make envelopes, and this was like, it is 100% possible and not super difficult to make them by hand without this tool. However, it's really nice and actually kind of like therapeutic to make them using this tool, and you guys will probably end up seeing why. So this is a brand, so this particular tool is from Artemio, and it's a brand that we have here in France, but I don't actually know if it's a French brand. And the one thing that I really liked about this was it was super cheap. It was like literally about 10 euros. And it was pretty small, but you can still make a decent a pretty decent range of sizes in terms of envelopes. So it comes with this board. On this side, you have your envelope, like template, score line, and all that kind of stuff. And you have the size charts, so in inches and in centimeters, which be careful, they're not entirely the same. And on the back, you actually have a template to make cards, which is essentially just a bunch of score lines to fold it in half. So I can honestly say I haven't really used this side yet because I basically just use this to make envelopes, but it also comes with this little score knife. So this this notch here means that it attaches over here, so everything's kind of all together. And the other reason that I got this particular tool and not a different one is because the punch was separate. So there are some tools where you actually have the like notch punch or whatever attached at the top of the board, which makes it easier in terms of like just always getting that right angle, I guess. But I thought I liked this because I wanted to have a punch to do rounded corners for like notebook inserts and that kind of stuff, and so having this means I get the best of both worlds. So if you already know how to make envelopes, this is probably going to be like super redundant for you. If you don't, however, I thought I would put this up here because when I first tried making envelopes, I constantly kept making square envelopes because I couldn't figure out how this all worked, and the instructions that came with it were not super clear. So I thought I would just do a little tutorial on here and also show you how I use the paper that I have in my collection and that kind of stuff to actually make the envelopes. So let me move this to the side. So I have here, and it's not going to fit in camera very well, this is my accordion folder of like paper stuff, and I actually sort of recently reorganized it. So I've got like doilies in the front here. This is just random paper, so I've got like maps and little paper booklets and that kind of stuff. This is paper I use for wrapping and like seals, so when I want to have like a little cover, if I want to do a wax seal. I have old book papers in here. Then I've got vellum, which yes, I have a ton of vellum, followed by some other types of like novelty paper, but that's an A4 size, so I can actually print on it. And then, oops, I have little bits of paper, so scraps of scrapbooking paper, stuff from magazines and that kind of stuff. And also I have my 6x6 paper squares from this like holiday pack I got. And then all of my scrapbooking paper. So what we are going to use today is actually this set. So let me pull it out. Oh dear, this is actually quite heavy. So what we're going to use today is this set. It's a little bit smaller than standard 12 by 12 scrapbooking paper. It's actually from a shop that we just got here in my town. Now, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but you guys can see their logo over here. And they have got just cute stationery stuff, cute home stuff, cute like kitchen stuff, just a lot of stuff, and it's actually fairly inexpensive. I don't think I have the price on here anymore, but I want to say that 20 sheets was like $3 or $4. Like it's pretty cheap. So these are all the different designs that I have on here, and I have 2 of each of them. So I like to use this to make envelopes because it is colorful like scrapbooking paper, but it's more flexible. It's like a little bit thicker than computer paper, and I found that that works really well for making envelopes because if you use scrapbooking paper, you have to be really careful that you don't accidentally punch through when you're scoring your lines, which I did a bunch when I was first making envelopes. So today we are going to pick, let's see, what paper do we want? I think we're gonna do this marbled one. So we are gonna take a sheet of this marbled paper, move this off to the side. So obviously I do not want to be making envelopes that are this big, so that means that I have to actually prepare my paper. Now, I don't have a good way of doing this because I like to use the inch chart. However, when I use my paper cutter, I have found that I can't get entirely accurate measurements. So I end up using my cutting mat, which is nice, and A4 sized, which let's see, because actually it's double-sided. Yes! Okay, so I have inches on the back here. I don't know why I didn't think about this before, but one side is centimeters, one side is inches, so we are gonna use inches. So we are going to cut this paper down to size, and I can usually get between 3 and 4 envelopes out of here depending on what size envelopes I want to do. So the next step then is to figure out what size we need. So I have my little size chart here, and since we're going to do inches, I'm just going to focus on this one. So I really like this 2 by 3.5 size. I think that makes a really nice sized envelope, and I like to do this 6 by 6 just because I can usually get a decent amount if I do between the 5 by 5 and the 6 by 6. So we're going to see how this goes. But I definitely want to make a couple of these 2 by 3.5 size envelopes. So we have to cut our paper down. I'm going to flip it so that I don't see my pattern because this is going to go on the inside. So this, let's see, this paper is like 11.5-ish by 11.5-ish. So it does not make, so for example, if I use true 12 by 12, I could make 4 6 by 6 envelopes. However, since I don't actually have quite that much, I am gonna make, I think I'm gonna go for 4 5 by 5 envelopes and just call it a day. So what we are gonna do first is, in order to actually get this, oops, I'm gonna do it, no. This is the problem, is these mats are designed for righties and I'm a lefty, so oh well, we'll make it work. So you definitely want to have as straight of lines as possible and as true of a square as possible, because I've had times where I cut a little bit haphazardly and that did not come out quite right, and you'll have slightly lopsided envelopes if you do that. So got a 5 by 5 there. And I'm gonna do another 5 by 5, and we're just gonna, oh actually, nope, we're gonna do another 5 by 5. I made this mistake before where I thought I could get 2 6 by 6 ones in here, except that it's not actually 6 by 12, if that makes sense. So I can only get like 1.5. So we're just gonna go ahead and do it like this. So here. And let's do, I'm going to do them one at a time because I don't want the paper to shift on me. Oops. Okay, so we have first one at 5. Oops. Get in frame. Okay, so cut this guy. Oops. So normally when I cut scrapbooking paper for making things like inserts, I will pre-measure and then cut it on my paper cutter because I can cut multiple pages at once. However, for this, since I want to make sure I'm getting the right size and getting like nice clean cuts, I decided to just go ahead and do it on the mat, and I'm using my like precision blade or whatever you call this, because it's not quite as heavy duty as my like box cutter, which is what I used to use for a lot of things. But I find that I don't make like squiggly jagged cuts as much as I do with that one. So where's my cap? So close up the blade. Oh dear, there we go. All right, so now I have got my paper, flip back over. Oops. So I have now 4 5 by 5 squares of paper and a couple of scraps, which I'm going to hold on to because you never know, I can use them for something. So I'll throw them back in my accordion of paper when I'm done. So let's see. All right, so now on to making envelopes. So when I make envelopes, because I want to have the design on the outside, I actually will score it this way so that when I do that score line, it'll fold in. So what you do is you look at your paper size. So I made 5 by 5 papers, and that means I'm going to have a 2 by 3.5 card size, but the envelope is basically going to be a little bit tiny bit bigger. And then that means I need to use the scale mark 2. Now, this for me is always a little bit awkward because I'm left-handed and this is designed for right-handed people, but we can make it work. So basically I come over here, and since I'm using the inch chart, I use the score guides that are on this side. So I need to line up my paper with this 2 mark right here, and I can see that I've got the score line underneath. So now this is where it gets really awkward, where if you were a righty, this would just be like super straightforward, but because I'm not, it's a little bit awkward. So I'm actually going to turn it, oops, like this. There we go. So I've got it lined up with score mark 2, whoop, and I just score. So you have to press hard enough so that you can actually see the line, but not so hard that you punch through the paper, which I used to do when I first started. Then what you do is you turn it, so you turn it clockwise, and you line up your scored line with the score guide. So this was where I was running into issues, where I was lining it up every single time from score mark 2, and so I was making square envelopes because I was basically just doing the same thing 4 times. But if you line it up with your score guide, then you will get the appropriate sized envelope. So you line up so that this score line is on top of your score guide, and score again. And you rinse and repeat. So next one. And the last one. So some people, when they do this, and especially if you have a board that has the punch already in place, you can actually go ahead and punch as you score, whereas I tend to do all of my score marks and then I punch at the end. So now that I have the outline of my envelope, I can go ahead and do my puncher. So what I like to do is I do the corner punch around all 4 outer corners. So 1, oh dear, and you have to make sure it's nice and centered. Otherwise you get sort of lopsided corner cuts. Okay, so I've got my 4 corners, and then flip it around and I've got my notch on this side. So you have to line up your notch so that as much as possible, these 2 little things kind of fall in line with your score lines. So looks pretty good. Oops. And you have your little notch there. So let's do the rest of them. There. And, oops. Okay, so empty out my cutter. So now I've got my envelope all ready to go. So you just fold in on all of your scored lines lightly so you don't accidentally rip it. Whoops. Yeah. There and there. So what I'm gonna do is, this is gonna be my outer flap. So what I like to use to finish off my envelope is a glue runner. So you do the short side flaps on the inside and this guy. So what I can see is I can basically just glue on these 2 little side flaps, like so, there, and fold up, and voila. So I have my envelope. Now I'm going to grab, so I got a new deck of cards you guys saw with my last video, and they're more of this size, which these guys don't fit. They're definitely too big. So by like, it's like 1/3 of an inch or something like that. However, my older cards usually do fit. So it's a little tight, but they actually will fit. So if you have I believe these are the French sized deck of cards. If you have French sized cards, you actually can fit a washi sample inside one of these little 2 by 3.5 envelopes. So let's take a look. Oops. So the card size is 2 by 3.5, but the envelope is like 3 3/4 by like 2 1/4. So it will fit a slightly bigger playing card. So what I like to do with these is either if I still have any of my smaller playing cards, I like to put a little washi sample inside, or if you have something like sticker flakes or little bits of ephemera that you can glue on a page, these are a really great size where you can then, if you have a little like a little note card that you're sending somebody, you just make a little envelope, put in your ephemera, stickers, what have you, close it. A lot of times I'll do a little bit of washi tape, or you could do just a sticker over the top. Now these, because they are so small, the flap comes all the way down to the bottom, so it's kind of hard to seal, but you could also conceivably just do a dot from your glue runner right here, and then it would be pretty easy to lift that up. And then you just stick it in the card and send it on its way to somebody else. So these are just like a cute little size. So I'm not going to make all 4 of these on camera for you guys, but I will end up making these and using these in Happy Mail. What I did want to do is show you another size envelope. So since I already have these 6x6, this was actually a holiday pack of scrapbooking paper that I got, but it's a little bit thicker than the last set, but it's not quite as thick as some of the scrapbooking paper. But what I like is it's a pre-cut 6x6 piece of paper. So I picked one that's not like overtly Christmassy, because obviously it's July. I don't really need something that's gonna be Christmassy, so that I could show you what a 6x6 envelope would look like, because that's another pretty good size for doing stickers and ephemera and that kind of stuff. All right, so if we are looking on here for the 6x6, so in the inch chart, a 6x6 paper makes a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 envelope. So this one is going to be a square envelope, and you will use the scale mark 3. So that means, and I'm actually just going to straight away turn this way because that's the way I need to do it. So that means I'm going to use this scale mark right here. All right, so, oops, nope, almost made a mistake. I'm going to do it so that all of my scores go inside. So there, score, and then I flip, match with my score guide. Whoops. There. Okay. So I have to say, I haven't really experimented making larger envelopes yet, because I do tend to use mine for things like washi tape and ephemera, so it's something that I'll have to play around with later, but these are pretty decent sizes for doing Happy Mail, which is why I wanted to show you guys today. So now I've got my, my cutter, so I'm going to do my corners first. Oops, I always need to do that first one twice. There. Oops. Okay. And then flip, and I do my notch. So. Okay. There we go. So now empty out. There we go. So now I have the base of my envelope, and I'm just going to go ahead and fold on all of my scored lines. There. And the nice thing about using the pre-cut 6x6 paper is it's going to make a pretty true envelope, whereas when I'm doing it, sometimes I don't cut quite as straight of lines as I should. So the way I like to do it with this, because you have this little overlapping bit here, is I do a dot of my glue runner all the way at the bottom, whoops, so that I can then close this, and then I just do it again on this side. There we go. And fold up. So for this, if you have slightly larger ephemera, you can put that in there. So I'll be right back in 1 second. Okay, so I thought I would go ahead and grab some envelopes and some ephemera to show you guys how I would actually do this. So I have 2 different size envelopes and cards, which, great, I grabbed the card and not the envelope. Whoops, all right, well, we're just gonna do it from here. So I have these 2 slightly different size cards here. So in terms of envelope size, with these little size cards, you can very easily fit the tiny envelope in here. And the way that I would do it is I would fill this envelope up and just tuck it inside my card, and then tuck everything inside the bigger envelope so that it stays fairly flat when you send it. Now, if you're going to use something this size, oops, this envelope is definitely not going to fit. However, I'm hoping that it'll fit in this size. Yep. So if you wanted to send a larger little homemade envelope, you would definitely need a slightly larger size, but this 3x3 very easily fits into this larger size card. So here's that. So in terms of what I would actually fill them with, so I already showed you guys, these are the French size playing cards where they fit in here, and you obviously could then do an American size playing card in this 3x3. And then, for example, if you wanted to pull out some ephemera, let's see what I've gotten here. Get some like littler pieces. So here, pull out a bit there. So if I were to send a larger piece of ephemera like this, I would definitely choose this larger envelope. So I could tuck a little bit in there. And then if I wanted to send some smaller stuff, I could use this smaller envelope, which these are obviously not going to be how I would send, like the things I would choose to send, but I'm showing you for size. And then I could do something like, ooh, here are some sticker flakes. So let's see. Oops, pull out a couple of sticker flakes. And you could very easily fit a bunch of little sticker flakes up in there as well. Now, if I were actually going to send this to somebody, I would choose things that went, uh-oh, my sticker flakes are sticking to each other. I would choose something that went together a little bit better. I would even potentially choose something that was kind of in a color scheme to go with the envelopes. But as you can see, I've stuck in a little bit of ephemera, washi tape, and sticker flakes, and it's still pretty flat in terms of both of them. And so, like this, you can then stick it into the letter that you're sending, and when your pen pal opens it, they don't have stickers that go everywhere. They then have a nice, neat little envelope full of goodies that they can then take out and use to store those goodies or other goodies as well. So, hopefully that was kind of a not too all over the place kind of video, but these are something that I've been seeing more and more on Instagram, and there's some people out there who make these amazing envelopes, and I thought I would just share it with you guys because I've started using them in my own Happy Mail to send to people because they are just really practical and they're super cute. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that if you had been confused by the tool for making envelopes, that now it makes a little bit more sense how you're supposed to use it, because I had that issue when I first started. So yeah, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and or subscribing to my channel. If you have any comments, questions, tips, tricks, any of that, please leave them down in the comment section, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!